Welcome back to Highlander, the retrospective-ing. Before we move on, two of my former co-hosts, Dustin Barnes and Claymore Cutlass, both consider Highlander 2 to actually be superior to Highlander 1. I think they're quite insane for believing that, but I do agree with what the Arkansas anime guy had to say. The second one makes no sense, but at least it's still fun. All the others you can do without. We're going to talk about Highlander the series this time. The show was intended to be a sort of loose follow-up to the original film that would overlook the questionably conceived second film and tell the further adventures of Connor MacLeod as if he hadn't won the prize and the fights were still going on. As he ran Nash Antiques in New York City with Brenda Wyatt, his wife, they were going to pick up this young kid off the street named Richie, and it was going to be fun and excitement for the whole family. And so Bill Panzer and Peter Davis were pretty excited about this idea, but Christophe Lambert was not. And eventually they stumbled across Adrian Paul, who had appeared in the television series War of the Worlds, which was a follow-up to the George Pal film. Adrian Paul suggested, why should I be playing Connor MacLeod? Why have that direct competition between us when I can just be a new immortal? So we'll make you Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod. And instead of being born in 1518, you were born in 1592, and still in Glenfinnan on the shores of Loch Shiel, still forced to leave the community just like Connor was, still running an antique shop now in what was supposed to be Seattle, but it was filmed in Vancouver, so the fans dubbed it Seacouver. You'll have a girlfriend, come fiancée, Tessa Noel. You'll still find Richie, and we'll still use the scripts that we were developing for Connor MacLeod. Maybe if we throw enough money at Lambert, he'll appear in a few episodes. Oh, just the pilot? Let's consider the show season by season. Mr. Subtitle will help me out in putting up episode by episode reviews so that I don't have to cover them that way. So, season 1. The directors of the episodes are trying to get that sort of Russell Mulcahy, MTV feel with limited success. It just feels more like a cheap, low-budget, direct-to-video movie over and over again. Alexandra Vandernoot as Tessa Noel is quite good. Stan Kirsch is a lot of fun as Richie Ryan, the sort of mortal sidekick who sort of gets into trouble all the time. The recurring character of Randy McFarlane, this investigative reporter played by Tina from A Nightmare on Elm Street. Our only glimpse of Connor MacLeod, once again played by Lambert, throughout the whole series. And it's just a shame he didn't come back because he actually has pretty good chemistry with Adrian Paul. This is the only season to have Darius, the immortal monk, priest guy. First half of this season, which is set in Seacouver, it has a lot of ideas it's playing with which are interesting. It seems to be trying to figure out, what all stories can we tell within the universe that we create in that first film. But it's just not very well made. And then you move over after the actually quite good mid-season story Band of Brothers into the Paris section, where the filmmaking is actually step up or 12, but the stories just become bland and uninteresting. The only season that really constantly talks about the presence of the Gathering, because at least according to the first season of the show, the Gathering was going on amongst them, and the events of the first film was the triggering of the Gathering, and the last few immortals are getting together, and they didn't know how long the show was going to run, so if they ever needed to come up with a final episode, it would just be, oh, well, that's it, last immortal, Duncan wins. By the end of the season, in the last episode, we get introduced to the concept of the Hunters, which will play off in the second season. It suffers from the exact same problems. In fact, the episodes in Seacouver, or Vancouver, Seattle, whatever you want to call it, are arguably even cheesier and more direct-to-video action flick this time. Tragic events surrounding Tessa Noel and Richie Ryan, which I covered in the commentary I provided for the current Blu-ray release of Season 2 of the series. A new recurring character who helps Duncan run the dojo, although Charlie really doesn't have that much to him. The main benefit of Season 2 is that we get Jim Barnes as Joe Dawson, Dr. McCloud's Watcher. The TV show's best addition is the concept of the Watcher, this group of mortals who keep track of the immortals throughout time. The only problem with the idea is that there's supposed to be this secret society that not even the immortals know about, but they have tattoos right here that somehow the immortals have not noticed this whole time. Once again, the mid-season story is the strongest. In this case, it's Unholy Alliance, in which the villainous leader of the Hunters teams up with a villain from Season 1 and makes the best episode for either one of them. We then move to Paris for another series of well-shot but rather bland episodes, and then culminates in a truly awful final episode of that season, Counterfeit. It's a very embarrassing last run for James Horton, the evil hunter, watcher guy.
The big picture is that it really couldn't have happened, how could it? It's just a bit silly, just sort of a child's game about it. But maybe it's that whimsy that that you find so appealing about it.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like X-Men, you know. You have these few people with these unnatural powers that they were born with. They don't quite know why, and you know they sort of find themselves in these struggles, and they try to keep themselves hidden because they realize they'll be ostracized by society if they're ever discovered.
So you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. You're now drawing comparisons between Highlander and the X-Men.